In 2025, the world was shaken when the Kepler-9 space telescope detected a mysterious radio signal from the Gliese 581 star system. Initially, scientists believed it was just cosmic interference, but upon deeper analysis, they discovered that the signal contained a repeating pattern with structured rules, resembling an unknown form of language. The US government immediately intervened. A secret research team was assembled, bringing together the most brilliant minds in linguistics, mathematics, and astronomy. All information was classified as top secret. However, amid the chaotic data streams, a message gradually emerged. A warning of an impending catastrophe. Daniel Carter, an engineer at NASA, discovered that certain documents related to the signal had been suspiciously concealed. Driven by curiosity, he hacked into the classified archives and found a file labelled Project Omega. What he read left him in shock. According to the documents, the US government had known about the existence of an extraterrestrial civilization for decades. Not only that, but they had also communicated with an alien race called the Xerthians. The file revealed that in 1965, a Xerthian spacecraft had crashed in the Nevada desert. Since then, the government had secretly studied their technology for top-secret military projects. Daniel realized that this truth had been hidden for far too long. What he found was not just evidence of alien life, but also a sign of an impending disaster. The signal from Gliese 581 was not just a greeting, it was an urgent warning. And then on a silent night, satellites orbiting Earth suddenly detected unidentified objects moving at an astonishing speed. They were no longer hiding, no longer just distant specks of light in the cosmos. This time, they were coming straight for Earth. What are we about to face? Daniel's hands trembled as he closed the classified file. His heart pounded in his chest. If the government had been hiding this truth for decades, what else were they concealing? And more importantly, what exactly was coming? The next morning, NASA's internal network was in chaos. Security alerts blared across the system. Reports flooded in from multiple observatories worldwide. Unidentified objects, previously detected as mere anomalies, were now confirmed to be advancing toward Earth at an unprecedented speed. Daniel rushed to the control center. Screens displayed real-time data of hundreds of massive, fast-moving objects entering the outer reaches of the solar system. Their trajectories were deliberate, coordinated. These were not asteroids, nor were they natural cosmic phenomena. A senior official stormed into the room, his face pale. Lock down all outgoing communications. This information doesn't leave this building. Daniel exchanged uneasy glances with his colleagues. The Xerthians, the aliens the government had supposedly contacted in secret, were they finally coming? Were they allies, or something far worse? Then, without warning, every screen in the control room flickered. A foreign transmission overrode all systems. A deep, metallic voice, distorted and layered, spoke in perfect English. You ignored the warning. A cold silence filled the room. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Now the reckoning begins! The transmission ended, but outside in the vastness of space, the objects continued their relentless approach. The world had only just begun to realize the truth. Humanity was no longer alone, and its survival was no longer guaranteed. Panic spread like wildfire. Within hours, world governments scrambled to respond. Military forces were placed on high alert, and emergency protocols were activated. News outlets speculated wildly, but the truth remained hidden from the public. Humanity was facing its first direct extraterrestrial encounter, and it might not be peaceful. Daniel was escorted to a high-security briefing at the Pentagon. Inside, a massive holographic display showed the incoming fleet. The objects had now entered the inner solar system. They were moving too precisely to be natural. A general stood up, his voice grave. We need to prepare for the worst. The Xerthians warned us decades ago. We didn't listen. A scientist interjected, her voice shaking. But what do they want? Revenge? Conquest? Before anyone could answer, all global communications went offline. Satellites were failing one by one. Then, without warning, the sky split open. Massive, obsidian-coloured ships materialised above Earth's atmosphere, their silhouettes blotting out the stars. Daniel watched in horror as the largest ship descended over Washington, D.C. It emitted a low-frequency hum that vibrated through his bones. Then came the voice. Your world stands on the edge of judgment. In that moment, the White House issued an emergency broadcast. The president's face appeared on screens worldwide. His voice was strained. We are no longer in control. We must decide. Do we fight or do we surrender? The world held its breath. The invasion had begun. A suffocating silence settled over the world. Billions of people watched their screens, waiting for an answer that no leader seemed ready to give. The massive alien ships loomed in the skies, motionless yet menacing, as if waiting for humanity's response. Daniel stood in the Pentagon's war room, surrounded by military officials and top scientists. A heated argument erupted. Should they attempt communication or launch a preemptive strike? We don't even know their true intentions, a scientist protested. A general slammed his fist on the table. They disabled our satellites. They invaded our airspace. What more do you need? This is an act of war. Before a decision could be made, a new signal appeared, a direct transmission from the alien mothership. Unlike before, this one came with visuals, a towering humanoid figure materialized on the Pentagon's central screen. Its elongated features, silver-hued skin, and piercing, glowing eyes sent shivers through the room. Your kind has broken the accord, the being spoke, its voice resonating unnaturally. You have meddled with knowledge forbidden to you. Daniel's heart sank. He knew what they meant, the secret experiments on Zerthian technology. The president's voice cracked through the comms. We don't seek conflict. What accord are you referring to? The alien's eyes flickered. Shh, your ancestors agreed to limits. You have surpassed them. There is a price. And then, without warning, the first attack began. A searing beam of energy erupted from one of the alien ships, striking a military base in Nevada, the same place where the 1965 Zerthian crash site had been hidden. In an instant, the entire base was reduced to molten rubble. The world erupted into chaos. Sirens blared. Fighter jets scrambled into the air. The war for Earth had begun. The explosion in Nevada sent shockwaves across the world, both literal and political. Within minutes, the US military retaliated, launching fighter jets and missile strikes toward the alien fleet. But nothing hit. The missiles vanished mid-air, disintegrated by an invisible force before they could even get close. Fighter jets lost power and plummeted from the sky like dead birds. The alien ships remained untouched, unmoving, their presence alone sending a terrifying message. Human weapons were useless. Daniel watched from the Pentagon war room as the chaos unfolded. A second energy beam descended, this time on a Chinese military installation. Another strike in Russia, another in France. The world's superpowers, stripped of their defences, were powerless against the unknown force. Then the alien transmission returned. The Zerthian leader's face appeared again, expressionless. Your defiance is meaningless. Surrender and the judgment will be swift. Resist and your world will burn. The room was deathly silent. The president turned to his advisors, his face pale. We need a diplomatic solution. If we can just... Boom! The Pentagon shook violently. Alarms blared. Security officers rushed in. Sir, they've breached our airspace. Something is landing! Daniel sprinted to the nearest surveillance screen. A smaller alien craft had detached from the main fleet and was descending toward Washington, D.C. Then, for the first time since the invasion began, something unexpected happened. The craft didn't fire, it didn't attack, it landed. A hatch slowly opened, and then a figure stepped out.
Not an alien! A human!
The war room erupted into chaos. Voices overlapped as stunned officials tried to process what they were seeing. A human? Daniel whispered, his mind racing. How is that possible? The surveillance feed zoomed in. The figure stepping out of the alien craft was a man in his late 50s, his face gaunt, his hair streaked with grey. He wore a strange, form-fitting suit that shimmered under the floodlights. But what truly sent a chill down Daniel's spine was the emblem on the man's chest, the NASA insignia. Gasps filled the room. The president leaned forward, his voice shaking. Identify him, now. Technicians scrambled through facial recognition databases. Within seconds, an answer appeared on the screen.
Dr. Adam Wright!
Status, missing since 1997, officially deceased. Daniel's blood ran cold. He knew that name.
Doctor?
Adam Wright was one of NASA's leading astrophysicists before he vanished nearly three decades ago during a top-secret deep space mission that had been erased from public records. The feed continued. Dr. Wright approached the White House, his hands raised in surrender. No guards moved. No one knew what to do. Then he spoke. "I need to speak to your leaders," his voice cracked through the speakers. "I know why they're here." Silence. The president hesitated only a moment before nodding. "Bring him in." As security forces rushed to retrieve Dr. Wright, Daniel felt a creeping sense of dread. If this man had been with the Xerthians for nearly 30 years, whose side was he really on? Dr. Adam Wright was escorted into the White House bunker under the highest security. His expression remained unreadable as he walked past rows of armed guards, scientists, and military officials. Daniel stood near the back of the room, heart pounding. The man before him had been missing for nearly 3 decades. Now he had returned alongside an alien invasion. The president wasted no time. "Dr. Wright," he said, his voice firm, "where have you been and what do they want?" Dr. Wright exhaled slowly. "I was taken," he said, "in 1997. Our deep space mission encountered something we weren't supposed to. The Xerthians intercepted us. They brought me to their world." Murmurs rippled through the room. Daniel leaned in closer. "They studied me," Wright continued, his voice grim. "But they weren't hostile, not at first. They were watching us, judging us." His eyes darkened. "They knew we had their technology from the crash in 1965. They warned our government to stop experimenting with it, but we didn't listen." The president's face paled. "So this invasion, it's a punishment?" Dr. Wright nodded. "To them, yes. They believe humanity has broken an ancient accord. They see us as reckless, dangerous. They've given you 2 choices, surrender and be judged, or resist and be eradicated." A chilling silence filled the room. One of the generals stepped forward, fists clenched. "And what happens if we surrender?" Dr. Wright hesitated. "They will decide the fate of humanity." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And I don't think we'll like their decision." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the bunker. A frantic officer burst in. "We have a problem! Something just landed in New York." He gulped, pale as a ghost. "And they're not Xerthians." Daniel's breath hitched. "Not Xerthians? Then who?" Outside, in the ruins of Times Square, another alien vessel had touched down. But unlike the Xerthian ships, this one was different. And as its doors opened, a new kind of being stepped out. The war had just become more complicated. The live feed from Times Square flickered onto the bunker's central screen. Soldiers, reporters, and terrified civilians had surrounded the newly arrived ship, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. The craft was sleek and organic-looking, its metallic surface pulsing faintly with a golden glow, completely different from the cold obsidian Xerthian ships. Then the hatch opened. A tall, luminous figure stepped forward, its form partially translucent, as if it were made of living energy. Its eyes, if they could even be called that, were radiant orbs of shifting light. It moved gracefully, scanning its surroundings before finally speaking. The voice was unlike anything Daniel had ever heard. It echoed directly in their minds. "We have arrived too late." Gasps filled the room. The president turned to Dr. Wright. "Who the hell are they?" Dr. Wright's face was pale. "I don't know." On screen, the glowing being raised a hand, and in an instant the entire area around it froze. People, cars, even falling debris, all suspended in midair as if time itself had stopped. Then it turned its gaze toward the sky, looking directly at the Xerthian motherships. "You have broken the balance," it spoke again, this time directed at the invaders above. The Xerthians reacted immediately. Their ships shifted formation, moving defensively, their energy cannons charging. They knew who these newcomers were. Dr. Wright's breathing grew rapid. "This is bad." Daniel's eyes flickered between the screen and the alien scientist. "Who are they? What balance are they talking about?" Dr. Wright swallowed hard. "They're the ones the Xerthians were afraid of." Outside, the sky darkened as a second alien fleet, larger than the first, began to emerge from hyperspace. The battle for Earth was no longer just between humans and Xerthians. A third force had just entered the war. The world stood still. Every screen, every broadcast, every satellite feed was locked onto the unfolding scene in Times Square. Above Earth, the Zerthian fleet repositioned instantly, their ships forming a defensive perimeter. Their sleek obsidian vessels hummed with energy as they prepared for battle, not against humans, but against the new arrivals. In the bunker, the tension was suffocating. The president turned to Dr. Wright. You said the Zerthians were the ones judging us. Who the hell are these newcomers? Dr. Wright's face was grim. I don't know their name, but I know this. The Zerthians fear them. On screen, the luminous being in Times Square raised its arms, and a pulse of golden energy rippled outward. The frozen people, cars and debris suddenly resumed motion, as if time had been momentarily paused and then restarted. Then the being spoke again, its voice resonating across the world. The trial is no longer yours alone, Zerthians. You have overstepped. The largest Zerthian ship responded instantly. A deep, guttural transmission blasted through Earth's comms. We enforce the accord. You have no claim here. Above them, the second fleet, the newcomers, completed their arrival. Their ships were massive, constructed from shifting light and dark matter, their forms constantly evolving as if they existed between dimensions. Then, without warning, the first shot was fired. A blinding beam of energy erupted from one of the newcomers' vessels, slicing through the darkness of space. The Zerthians dodged, barely. The beam grazed the side of a warship, and even that minor contact caused the hull to disintegrate into nothingness. The Zerthians retaliated, unleashing a barrage of plasma fire, but the newcomers' ships absorbed the attacks like ripples in water. Daniel gripped the edge of the table. Oh my God, this isn't just an invasion, he turned to Dr. Wright. This is a war between gods. The first true battle in Earth's orbit erupted with terrifying force. Zerthian warships maneuvered in tight formations, their plasma cannons firing relentlessly, but the newcomers' vessels seemed to bend reality itself, phasing in and out of existence, dodging attacks without moving. Then the counterattack came. One of the newcomers' ships pulsed with energy before unleashing a shockwave that didn't just destroy a Zerthian cruiser, it erased it. There was no explosion, no debris. The ship simply ceased to exist. In the White House bunker, panic surged. Military officials shouted over one another, debating whether to launch Earth's own nuclear arsenal. Sir, a general pleaded with the president, if we don't act now, we may not get another chance. Dr. Wright shook his head violently. You're nothing to them. If we interfere, they might turn their judgment on us. Daniel could hardly breathe. This wasn't just a war. This was annihilation on a scale humanity couldn't comprehend. The luminous being in Times Square lifted its gaze to the sky, seemingly unaffected by the chaos above. It spoke again, but this time, its voice wasn't just heard, it was felt across the world. This world is not yours to judge, Zerthians. The accord has already been broken. The Zerthian flagship responded with a desperate transmission. The humans are unstable. Their survival endangers the balance. The newcomers' form flickered, shifting between light and shadow. Then they shall face judgment by higher laws. A third fleet emerged. The bunker's radar screens went wild. New contacts, larger than anything before, descended from deep space. Daniel felt his stomach drop. There's more of them? The newcomer turned its attention back to Earth. Its voice rang out one final time. Humans, your fate will be decided. Prepare yourselves. Then the sky tore open. The sky above Earth ripped apart as if the fabric of reality itself was tearing open. From the endless void beyond, colossal shapes emerged, their presence so vast that they dwarfed even the mighty Zerthian fleet. These were not warships, they were judges. Their forms were indescribable, shifting between light, shadow, and raw cosmic energy. Their mere existence sent shockwaves through space and time. The battle above Earth stopped instantly. The Zerthians, the luminous newcomers, even humanity, all frozen in place. This was no longer a war. This was a trial. In the White House bunker, Daniel stared at the monitors in horror. Even Dr. Wright, who had seemed unshakable, now looked pale with terror. The air vibrated. Then a voice, ancient, omnipresent, deafening, echoed across the cosmos. The balance has been broken. The trial begins. A beam of pure white energy descended from one of the colossal entities, piercing through Earth's atmosphere. But it did not destroy, it did not burn. Instead, it scanned. Every human on the planet felt it, a deep, unsettling sensation, as if something was peeling away their very souls, examining their worth. Daniel clutched his chest, gasping. What are they doing? Dr. Wright's voice was barely a whisper. They're deciding if we deserve to exist. Then the light faded, the sky fell silent, and the voice spoke once more. Judgment will come. Prepare. Then the entities vanished. The Xerthian fleet retreated immediately, abandoning their mission. The luminous newcomers faded into the void. Humanity was left alone, trembling. The war had not ended. It had just begun. To be continued. If you found this story thrilling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay tuned for part 2. Let us know in the comments. Do you think humanity stands a chance?